Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Brissett, and I'm the social work librarian here at USC. And my co-facilitator is Kelsey Vukic, who's the social and behavioral sciences librarian here at USC. So welcome to the Recognizing Plagiarism and How to Avoid It workshop. Kelsey has provided access to the slides in the chat, so if you want to follow along, and you'll also get a link to the slides and recording after the session. All right, so just to kind of give you an overview of our objectives for this session, we're going to define plagiarism and academic integrity. We're going to identify some types of plagiarism, and then we're going to talk about strategies or practices, best practices for avoiding plagiarism and effectively paraphrasing someone else's ideas. I've linked to the USC Student Judicial Affairs and Community Standards page. So they do have a handbook or like a guide about academic integrity, and you may have seen a link to those resources or to the policy in your syllabus for your classes. So some violations of USC's academic integrity policy include plagiarism, which we'll talk about, submission of purchased papers or papers done by others, submission of the same assignment to more than one instructor. So just submitting even if it's your own work, but submitting that for another class, and then unauthorized collaboration on an assignment. So these are just kind of some of the ways that you might violate USC's current academic integrity policy. So why does academic integrity matter? It helps to establish trust and honesty. So it helps to demonstrate that you understand the expectations and goals of the course instructor, and establishing trust and honesty, meaning like between your peers, so among your peers and also with your course instructor. And it helps you avoid plagiarism, and you're giving credit to authors of your sources. So we're gonna do like a little poll, a check-in. All right, so the poll is basically asking you to select options for what is plagiarism, or select any of the choices. And you can check all that apply in that list. So this was kind of a trick question. All of the options are all examples of plagiarism. So submitting someone else's work as your own, not acknowledging the sources of your ideas, submitting work that has been edited or revised by someone else, and that means just to the point where it no longer represents your own idea. So it's as if that person who's helping you edit and revise has written it themselves. It includes quotation marks around a direct quote, but no citation, and then also providing incomplete citations so that you can't actually find the original source. So these are all examples of plagiarism. So what is plagiarism? It's stealing and passing off the ideas or words of someone else as your own, using someone else's assignment or paper or research without crediting that source, and then presenting an idea derived from an existing source as something that's new and original. So this definition is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. And how does plagiarism happen? So in the poll, there were all of those were examples of plagiarism. So some of those things can happen unintentionally. So it can be something that's intentional, where you're knowingly submitting something that it's not your own words, or not including citations. But it could also just be something unintentional. So it could be you're just not sure how to develop your own argument or voice, poor time management and lack of research. Not citing your work because you're just not aware of the citation guidelines, or even just not aware that there should be a citation, or that work isn't an original. So if you are doing a lot of research, you have a lot of resources, you taking notes, but you're not indicating that, that was like a direct quote from something. Later on, when you're writing the paper, you probably forgot and included it because it was part of your notes. So that it could be something as simple as that, just kind of forgetting or not including a citation. And then This is probably the common one. So knowingly submitting work that is not yours. And I've included on the slides this plagiarism spectrum. So it's from the site Turnitin, and they created this plagiarism spectrum, which kind of gives just various types of plagiarism. So just kind of from original thinking, so like your own work, your own ideas, and then kind of all the different ways that that could then change into plagiarism. We won't go over every single one of them, but I included the link so you can go back and kind of look at some of these in more detail. So I'll just go over a couple of them. So there's word-for-word plagiarism, which is directly copying another's work with no attributions and no credit, and without quotation marks. So as an example here, this example is from Turnitin. On the left is kind of the original text, and then on the right is the student work. And highlighted, kind of, you'll notice that a lot of the terms are exactly kind of what's here on the original text. So directly copying phrases, sentences without including any quotes or citations is kind of word for word plagiarism. There's also just as one of the options on the spectrum, the plagiarism spectrum, is inadvertent plagiarism. So forgetting to cite something, citing incorrectly, because you kind of forgot what the source was, or you just are not aware of the citation style, or omitting a citation because you're unaware of the original source. And again, similarly to word for word, not putting quotation marks around the author's word. So the left is source text, so just an entry or part of an entry from a Wikipedia post, and then the right is kind of student work, just kind of rephrasing what was said in that entry, but not including any direct quotes, or not including any quotes, or not including any citations at all. So it could just be you are kind of changing the words, you're writing it out, but you're not citing anything, you're not including any quotes. So that's kind of one way that you can plagiarize. And then the last one I'll talk about is paraphrase plagiarism. So this is summarizing or rephrasing someone else's ideas and copying the words and structure, but not acknowledging the original work. So this example is from MIT's Academic Integrity Student Handbook. But for the source text, you'll see like this paragraph here, and then the student text, it's highlighted kind of exact phrasing. So even though it isn't a kind of word for word exact match, there are certain phrases or the structure of the paragraph or sentence is the same, and there is no citation or acknowledgement. So like fair globalization less. So here in the source text, like that exact phrase is there. So there's no kind of effort to rephrase it or kind of use your own words. All right, so what is paraphrasing? So according to the APA publication manual, the 7th edition, so a paraphrase restates another's idea or your own words, previously published idea in your own words. So paraphrasing allows you to summarize and synthesize information from one or more sources and focus on significant information and compare and contrast relevant details. And APA included, or had, this example is from APA, where of a paraphrase where, again, like you're citing the original work. It is you including either a narrative or a parenthetical citation. So the first one is narrative, and this here where you're kind of including the citations in parentheses. So that's just an example of paraphrasing. It allows you to better grasp the full meaning of the original source. So again, these are just additional examples. So you'll notice there is citation. So even though there isn't kind of any direct quotations or anything like that, this person paraphrase that text, but it still included a citation. And this is just another example, showing kind of multiple citations. So paraphrasing, but kind of combining information from various sources in one paragraph. Okay, so I'm gonna do a check-in number 2. So another poll. So it included, summarizing involves putting the main ideas into your own words, including only the main points. Direct quoting is identical to the original, using a narrow segment of the source. So what is paraphrasing? So all 3 are correct. So putting a passage from a source material into your own words, attributing it to the original source, and then also condensing the original passage. So some tips for paraphrasing. So again, like I mentioned before, paraphrasing, it is helpful for you because it helps you to better get a full understanding of the source material. So you want to carefully read it. And then a good tip or best practice is to then kind of, after you've read the article or the source that you're looking at, kind of put it aside and then take notes. So restate the ideas or what you remember in your own words. That will help you to avoid kind of using the original language. So if a lot of times, like if you're looking at the text and as you're kind of writing notes, you might write kind of exactly the same words. Another way to do that is to kind of immediately put quotes around it, so you know this was a direct quote. It's not something you're putting into your own words. So yeah, so kind of put it aside, restate the ideas in your own words. And then you can after that, you can compare just to make sure you aren't copying exact phrases. If you are, those are direct quotes that you need to identify. And also make note of the citation information as you're taking notes. So if you do kind of move on to other sources, you'll remember where you got those notes from or where you got those quotes from. So as you're taking notes, also indicate the citation information, because that's another way that we can kind of unintentionally plagiarize, is you kind of move on to the next text, the next article, and then forget, when we're looking at our notes later, forget where we got certain phrases from. So kind of keep that in mind as well. And then just to kind of compare from the poll, like from the example that or the definition I included is from Purdue OWL. So they are summarizing you're summarizing the passage, but you're just kind of including the main points or the main idea of the passage. So this is just an example. And then kind of what the summary is, which is really just, in this particular case, a sentence, because it's just identifying the main points. And then direct quoting is, again, you're including the direct quote. So in the first example, the quotation marks are around what was exactly taken from the original source, and you're including a citation. And the second example, I think this is more of like a block quote. So again, it's the exact, you're taking it directly from the source text and including your citation. And here are just kind of, again, some best practices to help you avoid plagiarism. So I mentioned taking notes. That's a good way to help you, like, as you're reading or even after you read it, it helps you to kind of determine that you understood the text and kind of how did you understand it. That's a good practice of writing out the notes and writing out your understanding of it, keeping track of the citations, citing it. So whether you're paraphrasing or directly quoting, cite. Familiarize yourself with the citation style. So I mentioned I've been mentioning APA style, but it depends on what you're working on or what your instructor is requiring. It could be Emily citation style, Chicago style, and the USC Library's research, there is a research guide that kind of links to all of these citation styles. So we do have a research guide or a guide that's for each of those different citation styles. When in doubt, cite. So if you're not sure what to do, it's always better to include the citation. Paraphrase correctly, so use quotes when citing exact sentences, give credit to the authors, and then restate in your own words. And the question will be like in the scenario below, would the student need to cite their source? All right, so here's the third poll. So in that scenario, would the student, yes or no, would the student use citation? You would include citation because they're not using their own ideas. So whether you're summarizing, paraphrasing, directly quoting, you're taking from an original source, you should cite the source. And then to cite or not to cite. So there are some things that you do not need to cite or do not need documentation for. So kind of your own experiences, your own observations, your own thoughts, things that are kind of your own artwork, unless I think this is, I should have included this. I think it's unless it's something that's been previously published, for example. But yeah, things that are kind of, again, your own experiences, your own thoughts and ideas. Things that are like common knowledge, like historical events or myths or urban legends. So I guess things that typically everyone would know, or it's kind of commonly known, would not need a citation. And then I'll do the final check-in, kind of based on what we've talked about. Why is avoiding plagiarism important? So in addition to kind of avoiding a failing grade and disciplinary action, what are some other reasons that we want to avoid plagiarism? So to better understand the source material and critically analyze what we read, to help your friends pass a class, to give credit to an author's research and work, to establish trust with your peers and instructor, to establish your own opinions and ideas about a topic. Everyone responded, so I'm going to share the results. So everyone got them correctly. The only incorrect answer is the second one, to help our friends pass a class. So so it's not just for avoiding plagiarism. It's not just about just not wanting to fail the class or for disciplinary action. It also, again, like helps you to better understand the source. So you want to kind of read it and actually take notes, process it, like what's your understanding. You're giving credit to another author. If you've put a lot of time and energy into something, you would want that credit for the work that you've done. That just kind of further helps to establish trust with other researchers, with your peers, with your instructor. And then it helps you to kind of establish your own opinions about something and a topic, rather than kind of just directly copying something. You're thinking more about it. You're kind of putting it into your own words to demonstrate your understanding of it. I've included on the slides just a list of resources. So we have, there is a organizing your social sciences paper. I've included the APA 7th edition citation guide, but there are also other guides depending on the citation style that you need to use. The USC Writing Center is a really good resource. They have appointments, so you can meet with a writing instructor one-on-one. That will help you with kind of the mechanics of writing, also help you with going over your paper and editing it. So that's helpful as well to help you avoid plagiarism. It's kind of going back and reading in and they'll go over like best practices for editing, kind of proofreading that work. And then the OWL at Purdue, so the online writing lab at Purdue University, they have citation style guides. They also have they have paraphrasing exercises and a lot of resources related to summarizing versus paraphrasing and directly quoting. So that's also a really good resource to check out. If you do have any questions, you can email us. So our email is sscihelp@usc.edu. You can check out more of our workshops. So there's some that are for the social and behavioral sciences. And then there's also just generally the USC library workshops. And then I've linked to the slides.